It's July 17th, 2011. We're in Frankfurt, Germany for the final of the Women's World Cup. The United States leads Japan 2-1 in the 117th minute. If they stop this last-ditch Japanese corner kick, they could take home their third World Cup trophy. But before this play unfolds, we need to remember how we got here. How a fresh face helped the Americans pull ahead after a frustrating first half. How Japan pounced on mistakes to take this to extra time. And how these teams got here in the first place. One narrowly avoiding collapse, the other still reeling from national tragedy. Before Japan takes this corner, we need to rewind. The US and Japan have two of the best women's soccer teams on earth. It shouldn't be a surprise to see them in the final together. But they've each had a funky World Cup. The US is FIFA's top-ranked team, but they nearly missed this tournament entirely. The Americans were clear favorites to win the CONCACAF qualifying tournament in 2010, but in the semifinal, they suffered a historic upset, falling to a Mexican side that had never beaten them before. Because they whiffed on that automatic berth, the US was thrust into a two-game playoff against Italy, which mercifully they won. Thus, the favorites to win this World Cup were also the 16th and final team to qualify for it, and things didn't get simpler from there. The US failed to win their group, falling to second in Group C because of a 2-1 loss to Sweden. And they were moments away from losing to Brazil in the knockout stage before Abby Wambach's soaring header in stoppage time of extra time. The latest goal in Cup history sent that quarterfinal match to penalty kicks and an eventual US victory. So the Americans took a rocky road to get here, but it's nothing compared to the real-life terror from which this Japanese team is still reeling. Just 4 months ago, a massive earthquake and tsunami hit Japan. The disaster killed over 15,000 people, destroyed innumerable buildings, and triggered nuclear meltdowns at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. While a mourning nation picked up the pieces, the national soccer team's training facility, J-Village, was converted into a base for workers sorting through the Fukushima damage. One of the players on this Japanese team, Aya Sameshima, played for a club team owned by the power company and actually worked at the plant. Since the disaster, she's joined the Boston Breakers, becoming a teammate of a bunch of the current American players. The national squad considered skipping the World Cup, but ultimately stayed in, determined to inspire their beleaguered home country with their play. And even after finishing second in their group like the US did, they've done exactly that. The Japanese conceded an early goal to Sweden in the semifinal, but Naomi Kawasumi tied it, Homare Sawa scored a header for the lead, and then Kawasumi buried a long-range shot to make Japan the second ever Asian side to reach a World Cup final, hoping to outdo China's loss to the US in 1999. And their coach won't let them forget what they're playing for. Before Japan's quarterfinal match versus the host nation, Germany, Norio Sasaki presented his players with a slideshow of the destruction back home. It was a stirring reminder, and players like Aya Miyama cite the photos as a direct inspiration for the refined, relentless passing attack that carried Japan to this final. But the odds are against them in this matchup. They've never beaten the United States, suffering defeat as recently as a shutout in a friendly 2 months ago. And that underdog status was evident immediately. It took only seconds for Lauren Cheney to find an opportunity, though she perhaps chose wrong in shooting instead of passing off to Wambach. That began a torrent of American offense that weirdly produced nothing. Cheney very nearly scored a couple minutes later off a feed from Megan Rapinoe. Then Wambach and Carly Lloyd both sailed shots just a bit high, and the goal frame took a beating, first off one of several blown chances by Rapinoe, then by a brutally unlucky Wambach missile that struck the crossbar. The United States took 12 shots in the first half, but only one was on goal. With a halftime score of 0-0, Japan had to feel fortunate, and the US, like they left a substantial lead on the pitch.
Half-time here. Fascinating stuff, a story of missed chances.
Obviously, the score has changed since halftime, and if you look closely at the 11 Americans out there right now, you'll see a couple new faces. One of them has made all the difference. 22-year-old Alex Morgan is the youngest player on the US roster, but she already flashed her scoring ability with a goal against France in the semifinal. So with an ankle injury hobbling Cheney, Morgan came out for the second half, and in the 69th minute finally found the back of the net off an unbelievable long ball from Rapinoe. That should have been the winner, but 12 minutes later, a miscue right in front of the net gifted Japan's Aya Miyama the opportunity to ruin Hope Solo's clean sheet and send the match to extra time, which meant the youngster had to come to the rescue again, serving a perfect driven cross to Wambach's deadly forehead. That gave us the score we're staring at right now. Morgan is the second ever substitute to score in a World Cup final. She's the first player to record a goal and assist in a final. And she's gonna be today's hero if the US just snuffs out this corner. So let's talk about this corner. What can we expect? Japan isn't really a set-piece team, in part because they have the shortest average height of any team in the tournament. But at least defending corners today, they've done an outstanding job, stifling the nearly 6-foot-tall Wambach. And they've got weapons, Miyama and Hamarisawa. Miyama, who scored Japan's one goal today, is taking the corner, and she's threaded some gorgeous passes through the American defense, including this threatening one for Sawa in the 112th minute. And despite her failure to break through so far today, Sawa is a huge threat. She scored a hat trick during group play against Mexico, and she had that go-ahead goal against Sweden in the semifinal. A fifth goal would win her the tournament's Golden Boot award over Brazilian legend Marta. And while they're trying like hell to stop her, these Americans love and respect Hamarisawa. Several know her personally from her stints with a few different US clubs. Wambach is a former teammate of Sawa's, and she's not the only one professing admiration for the star and leader of this impressive Japanese side. So Sawa is the scorer to contain, and if we rewind just a bit, we'll see the US has extra reasons to worry if they let Japan tie this thing and send it to PKs. For one thing, the Americans have already won a game on PKs, and you can be certain Japan scouted their decision-making in that context. More recent concerns include the fact that Rapinoe, one of their usual kick takers, was subbed out in the 114th minute. And the last worry sprung up just moments ago. On the chance that led to this corner, Solo, the keeper, already coping with shoulder and hamstring injuries, appeared to hurt herself again. So the US is extra desperate to snuff out this attempt. Doing so would all but wrap up their third World Cup victory, a victory spearheaded by their youngest rising star. And it would be an especially sweet one, given how close this team came to getting knocked out and how close they came to not even making the tournament. Their greatest foe right now is the formidable Sawa, the obvious target for this corner, who could continue a brilliant World Cup run and this game with a goal here. If she and Japan can snatch this victory, they will make history. It'll be their first win over the US, the first World Cup for the whole continent of Asia, and a hard-fought tribute to their country people picking up the pieces of a terrible disaster. This corner means everything, so let's see what happens. Welcome to A Moment in History.
Corner kick for the USA to survive here. Miyama, Sawa! Does it! Oh, Japan have done it again! Hamari Sawa, the darling of Japan!
Japan did indeed go on to win the World Cup in penalty kicks, but if you want to see an episode Rewinder where something good happens to the US, here's the '99 World Cup, and here's some more episodes, and here's me eating a carrot.